Welcome to Conversations with Klana, made for the modern woman who wants to raise her self-esteem, increase her satisfaction, and build happy and loving relationships with herself and others. More and more, women feel they have lost their spark and the connection to themselves and miss deep intimacy in their lives. Rather than accept a life that doesn't shine, they want to change to one that does. Join the conversation each week when Klana and her guests explore practical ways and positive solutions to living a new, authentic life based on self-love, connection, harmony, and joy. Now, here is your host, transformation catalyst, author, and speaker, Klana.
Hello, everyone, to another episode of Conversations with Klana. I am happy to have Ryka George with me today. And she is an intuitive life coach who utilizes her gifts as a psychic and medium to assist you in finding your answers to life's challenging questions. Whether you are looking for answers regarding family, career, relationships, spiritual or personal issues, she helps facilitate your growth and healing with her vast knowledge and connection with spirit. And Ryka is also an Akashic Records reader. And through the Akashic Records, clients have the opportunity to change life patterns. And I am curious to learn more about that, and welcome, Ryka.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to speak with you and your listeners.
Yeah. So where do you want to begin with?
I don't know. What would you like to know? What do you think your listeners want to hear about me?
I'm a little bit curious about the Akashic Records and of what you are doing with your clients.
Okay. So there's various things that I do with clients. With the Akashic Records, primarily, we go into the records to seek healing, change, and information that we might not be able to access just through their guides. And what I found is it's a very transformational place. Divine healing is received as long as you've done the work. If you go in with the intention of, well, just like it's going to be a magic wand, it doesn't work like that. We all have to do the work of ownership of the lessons that we are here to learn. But
excuse me when I'm disturbing your flow.
That's okay.
But could you please explain a little bit for the people who don't know what the Akashic Records are?
Oh, absolutely. So the Akashic Records are the records of our soul. And everyone has records. Within the records, there are the masters, the teachers, and our loved ones. And it's a rather magical place. And everybody's record, to me, when I go in, feels a little bit different. So I always have to orient when I go in. And because of my gifts as a psychic and a medium, my experience in the records, I've been told, is very different than the average Akashic Records reader. Because when we go into the records, your guides come along with us. And when your guides come in, they help us in the navigation in the records, meaning they will bring up subjects and issues that the person may not understand that they need help with. And they'll bring up things like childhood issues or family lineage issues. And that helps the divine healing in that we have free will and we need to ask for what we need. Often, how do I explain this? It's like going into the records always elevates the human being. But because the guides come in also, they're able to help get even more from the record session. So my clients receive very transformational experiences within the records. Does that help?
Yes. And when you are talking about the guides, you mean the spiritual guides that everyone has.
Yes. No
matter if they are aware of them or not.
Oh, no one comes into the human form without spiritual guidance. They are the little voice that you hear, that when maybe you're doing dishes, you suddenly have that feeling, oh, I need to call my best friend. Or, oh, I need to check on the kids in the other room. And you walk in and it's like, oh no, you guys can't be doing that. They're literally our guides. They walk us through life.
Yeah, so true. So this is really, really interesting. And you, at the beginning, you told me that you have a topic that's very dear to your heart that has to do with nutrition.
Yes, nutrition and health and what we do with our bodies.
Yes.
My mother recently passed of Alzheimer's. My father had Alzheimer's, and I myself am in my early 50s. Well, I'm almost 54. So I don't know if that's early or late, but that's where I'm at. And I realized that there had to be a reason. There had to be a reason why I had two parents who manifested a brain degenerative disease. So I have spent more than a decade studying health and nutrition. And what Spirit has led me to recently is to add nutrition counseling and lifestyle choices. I don't know if I want to call them lifestyle choices. I want to say that we would work together to develop new habits that work for you. It's not about right or wrong. It's that certain things that we need for our physiology, like sugar causes inflammation for everybody, no exceptions.
Yeah. So what else can you share with me and the listeners? What would be important in that regards without diving deep into it?
No one makes physical changes without emotional changes. And often we're blind to why we keep doing what we're doing. And the combination of working with Spirit and working with science and lacing those two together to make your life easier, to slow down the aging process, to have more energy and vitality in your life on a physical, spiritual, and emotional level, that's what I want to bring to people.
Oh, yeah. I can see your enthusiasm in that.
And I'm so crazy excited about it.
Yeah. And
it feels to me like many people feel like they're destined because of their genetics to end up the way their parents ended up. And we have so many more choices than that. We don't have to feel the way our parents felt. We don't have to live our lives the way we were taught. We get to erase and delete and replace.
Yeah, that's so great that you say that. Even though we sometimes have the impression we are caught in all those old patterns, but it's just a pattern most of the time, and that you can really change. And then it's great that there are people like you and other coaches who can help people to do that, because sometimes it's a little bit difficult to do that on themselves, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what I also find is that we were talking about the Akashic Records a moment ago. In the Akashic Records, when divine healing is given, it's like there's this large exhalation that happens in a person's life. I'll give you an example. I recently worked with a woman who witnessed a suicide, and she wasn't sleeping, and medication wasn't working. And she was very willing to do the work of ownership of how she was a part of that experience, how it could benefit her, as crazy as that sounds, to be a witness to this person's end of life. But after being in the records and talking back and forth with her guides, that night she slept 8 hours. Previously, she'd only been sleeping 3, if that.
Wow. That's
so
great.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Another woman, we had done work with her guides. A man had, do you know the phrase ghosted her?
Yeah.
Okay. So he ghosted her, and for some reason, every day she felt this energetic intrusion from this man. And she didn't know how to get him out of her life. One session in the records, and he was gone. It wasn't a problem anymore. And the house that she was trying to sell that she couldn't make move, that got cleaned up too. And that following week, the house sold. So it's pretty magical.
So it's really potent. Just within one session, things can dissolve.
Absolutely. Some are one and done, and some are, we need more than one because it's multiple layers.
Yeah.
Something that I share with my clients that most people don't recognize is that everything that we believe and everything that we're here to learn creates an energetic pattern in our electromagnetic field. And if you don't know what the electromagnetic field is, the heart generates the electromagnetic field. Science can measure it. And the metaphysical community calls that electromagnetic field the aura. So the science and the spirituality line up. Yeah. And just like you walk up to somebody and you can shake their hand and have an immediate feel of, oh, I don't trust this person, or, oh, I'd really like to get to know this person better. All of those lessons and everything we're here, that's what people are reading. And so when we heal, we change that electromagnetic signature for that lesson. And then different things can happen in our lives. And that's why this transformational work is so important. It's not just cerebral, it's energetic.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And yeah, energy, all is energy. This is what, when I'm working with people physically, I'm also using energy in my hands. So there is something transmitting through all of us that has an impact on other people.
Well, absolutely. And the other thing that I've been taught is anything that we try to avoid, we push it to the edge of our energetic field, and it acts as an attractive nuisance. So that's why life patterns repeat over and over when you keep ignoring something, is because it literally is circling you as an attractive nuisance. But when you take it from the outside of your energetic field and pull it into your core, then you take ownership, and your guides are able to help you. When you're pushing it away, your guides are like, if you're not owning it, we can't help you. So it's a whole process of recognition and ownership and free will.
Wow. This is such a fascinating area of our life. I'm diving. I'm diving deeper into that. And this is why it clicked when I saw you on the screen. We met in an entrepreneur network meeting. And I thought, I need to have her on my show to bring spirituality a little bit nearer to my listeners.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything that you think your listeners struggle with or would like to better understand about how spirit works in our lives, or any other aspect?
That's a very good question, Ryka. I haven't asked them yet, so I'm just figuring out where are my blank points so that I could ask you the questions, even though I might know it already. So this is why I asked you at the beginning, what are the Akashic Records and how does that work? And then you explained it very well along the line, how things are working. And what I think is really cool is that the science and the spirituality meet. They really come together now more and more. And it's really high time that this is going to happen. That we come out of the woo-woo area.
Well, I'm a very science-minded person, but I have been psychic all of my life. And I didn't understand that other people didn't have voices in their head. Like, who in kindergarten says, oh, what did your voice say? Nobody says that. The voice just says something and you respond to it because you hear it. And as I grew as a human being, my connection with spirit grew. And so something that I discovered that first I heard in what I call the woo-woo community was that, oh, well, our first chakra, that's the first 7 years of life. And I didn't understand where this came from. And one day I was reading a book and they were talking about neural programming and how from 0 to 2, so from when we're conceived to age 2, our brain frequency is in the delta range, which is similar to an adult sleeping. But then 2 through age 6, so until our 7th birthday, our frequency is in the theta range. And that's similar to an adult dreaming or imagining. Well, it isn't until after age 7 that we're in alpha and beta waves where we can discernment and judgment. Well, that means for the first 7 years, we're on neural programming. We accept everything that we hear as fact. That completely aligns with the science and the woo-woo community, making it all dovetail. And I think it's so important to realize that we are energetic beings. And when we are in our bodies, we're here to learn lessons. And there are no human beings without lessons. And spirit doesn't believe that we ever make mistakes. We make choices. Then we have lessons. We make other choices. We have other lessons. And that's just how it works. It isn't good or bad.
Exactly.
Some lessons we don't want to learn. Some lessons we don't want to live through.
Mm.
But it's all to elevate who we are, even when it's challenging.
Yeah. And you see how important education is for the children, so that you don't close them down when they come up with their fantasies. So this is all important. And when I see how it was in my childhood, I don't really remember a lot of my childhood. But at that time, I'm really sure they would have told me, what are you fantasizing there? Because most of the time the children were told, be quiet, adults are talking, children have to be quiet, and all those things. So for me, spirituality only came up consciously in the last few years. And then I said I had a quite difficult time at the beginning to accept that. And now I see that there is a whole other world out there. And which one is true? So I chose to take my own truth as a truth. There are several truths out there, in my opinion. So everybody can have their own truth on several things. How do you see that, Ryka?
I always check with my client as to what they believe.
Yeah.
I'm not there to change anybody's belief. I'm there to provide alignment with, but it's more than, how do I say this? So while I ask what their belief is, the only question I'm really asking is, I ask them, is there a higher power, and what name do you give that higher power, or is it all science? Because I need to know where they're coming from when we're interacting, because once I speak with their guides, well, their guides already know them, but I don't know. And since I help formulate questions for them to facilitate that they get the most out of their session, I just find that it just flows fairly easily. Like, their guides know them. And what's always amusing to me, and this just happened yesterday, I was working with somebody, is that the guides use phrases that are familiar and common in that person's life. Like, I was working with a woman who was trying to figure out what she was doing about her wedding because it's scheduled and it's coming up and we have COVID going on. And so the conversation was just, she began talking about the venue, and somebody said, well, it's a luxury hotel. And she says, yes, it is. She hadn't said it. She just said where it was located. And then they said, it's very shishi. And I said, I'm hearing it's very shishi. I don't really use the phrase shishi, but she's like, oh, I describe lots of things at shishi all the time. And I'm like, well, that's because it's your guy. So it's always fascinating to me what spirit brings through and what's important, and that they use phrases that are familiar to that person that are foreign to me. Not foreign like I haven't heard them before, but foreign not in my everyday lexicon.
Do you have a recommendation for people how they can distinguish between the voices, if they are really from their guides or if it's their ego?
Oh. So at different phases of life, I use different cues with people because I work, sometimes parents bring me children to work with. So what I say to a young child would be different than what I say to a teenager or a young adult or somebody who's in their 50s. So what age group would you like me to address?
Good question.
Yeah, because it's a little bit different.
Let's not take the children. Let's take the adults.
Okay, what age adult?
Can you pick two?
Oh, sure. So with teenagers, I very much have them clue into what is this really about? What's going on here? Are you scared? Are you, and I use this with some adults also, but with teenagers, I'm like, look at what your motivation is. That's where we start, because if they understand where their motivation is, then they can begin looking and going, okay, now, where are you feeling it in your body is a next question. Is it a nervousness high in your chest? Is your whole body calm and that information just dropped in? So I'm a little more tactile with younger people. With adults who've been around for a while, and let's say they're in their 40s or older, I tailor the information. How much awareness does this person have? If they have a lot of awareness, I say, what are you feeling about this information? Are you feeling like you have a lot of insecurities around it? And so you've got to check yourself. And if you're checking yourself, did you feel that information just drop in? Or did you feel that information come at you like a flood of energy? It depends on the person. I'm kind of feeling this. When it is ego driven, you'll have a body tell. When it's spiritual driven, it will come in with a calmness.
Okay.
I think is the best way to describe it.
Thank you, Ryka.
You're welcome. You look a little surprised.
I know, it's interesting. I'm always curious about those things because I'm quite new. And
well, tell me about your newness, meaning like, what area are you looking for more information about?
oh no, all the spiritual things I'm soaking like a sponge at the moment. So because I'm really, really, really curious about that. A lot of things already work for me. So when I work with clients, I am so sure now that my guidance is working through me.
Oh,
Because there no doubt about that nowadays. But if you would have told me that 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said, "Are you crazy?"
got it.
No. So now I can really see that there's way more than we used to know, or more than we can see with our eyes. Definitely.
Got it.
Yeah. So what are the concerns people come to you?
Family, career, relationship, emotional stuff, spiritual development, all of those things. And I can work with anyone, anywhere on the planet, as long as we can talk on the phone. Oh, and I forgot to say earlier, I prefer the phone because video can have delays, it can cut out more, and it's quite distracting. Our brains are not really wired to understand video. And so when I work only auditorily on the phone, I get more information. I don't miss pieces. And I don't want clients to not get their full information. And so when they come to me, often people are coming because something's not working in their life. And I have them write down questions and concerns, any aspect of their life that they'd like to better understand, anything that's uncomfortable, anything they'd seek healing. And they write all of that down. And often I only hear 1 or 2 questions. But by the end of the session, Spirit has answered every single question. And the clients are amazed. And I'm like, well, that's just how it works.
Wonderful.
It is.
Yeah, and I know what you are talking about when you say on the phone. I see that as well. So I'm a physical person. Yeah, one of my gifts is really the touch, the real touch. But in these times now, you cannot always do that, or we were not allowed to touch people. So I needed to find ways to do it online, which works also perfectly right, because I can give people the directions how to touch themselves, for instance. But either doing that or doing the other coaching things, when I don't have video, I'm totally different in the conversation, because I'm also somehow like a sensitive. I can sense the things more when I'm not distracted by video. So I'm completely with you there. And I guess that might be different from person to person. There are more the people who are more visual. They get different things when they look at you.
But when I look at somebody, I look energetically. And so being on the phone, I can just look energetically. I can take a moment and scan their body. Yeah. We didn't mention this, but if I need to, I can scan somebody's body using my own body. Like I will close my eyes while I'm on the phone, and I'll drop into my body and I'll scan, and I'll ask the Spirit to show me where it is that the person is having issues. Now that doesn't always work, and I never promise that I can always do it, but I've had clients who said, how did you know my left knee hurt? Or how did you know that my right shoulder wasn't working? I'm like, I don't know, it just works.
You have definitely a gift there.
Right. Well, sometimes people ask me, so what can you do? And I'm like, I don't know. When I say I don't know, it's not that I don't know what I can do. I don't know what your guides are going to request of me. It's like talking to someone who's deceased. Are they going to show up? Do they want to talk? I remember one time I had a woman who came to me. She was pregnant. She was depressed. She was suicidal. She showed up for an in-person session with her husband. And the guide, she wanted to talk to her mother who just passed a couple months before. Spirit wasn't going to let her mother come through and talk because they were far more concerned about her depression. And that had to be addressed. But towards the end of the session, I kept hearing bells and gongs and all different types. And I said to her, I know this is a message because I can't turn it off. A few days later, I called her husband just to check on them to see how she was doing. And he said, do you want to know about the bells and gongs? I said, absolutely. Of course I do. And he said, she was talking to her aunt in China, which is where she was from. And her aunt said, that was your mother. I collect bells and gongs.
Wow.
How spirit shows up, I'm not in charge of.
Yeah.
I'll never know exactly how it's going to be. I'm the conduit and the interpreter.
Yeah.
And if I don't know, I ask the client to interpret, like, I'm hearing this phrase. What does this mean to you? Oh, like I was in the middle of a phone session with a client in California, and somebody suddenly started saying, tiny dancer, tiny dancer. And they wouldn't answer the question. They kept saying, tiny dancer. I finally said to the client, I'm sorry to interrupt, but somebody's saying tiny dancer. And this woman spoke to her niece, who was a regular client of mine. That's how she connected with me. And they spoke in Spanish for a moment, and I don't speak Spanish. So I was like, okay, what's up? They came back and they said she was one of 7 children, and her mother had a song for each child. And her song basically translated as tiny dancer. So her mother was coming through to say, I see what's going on with your brother. I'm not going to talk to you right now, but I'm aware.
Wow.
So I don't ever know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always make sense to me, but ultimately it makes sense to the client. And then they tell me, and then it kind of accelerates the process.
That's cool. I think I could talk for hours with you here.
Oh, I have no idea how long we've been talking. I just talk.
But is there anything you want to tell the listener before we close?
If you're struggling, if you're looking for answers, even if you're not sure exactly what the question is, but you have a discomfort, I'd love to see if I can help you. And if I can't help you and I can't connect, I don't charge. And if you've prepaid, you get your money back. Because I'm here to make real changes in people's lives at all different levels. And I look forward to speaking with you.
Wow. And where can they reach you?
My website is readingsbyryka.com. And I'm sure that Klana is going to put it below the video. Exactly. And Ryka is spelled R-Y-K-A. If you're an international caller and you would like to text me, you are welcome to text me on WhatsApp, because the WhatsApp application is what I use for my international clients. And my phone number is found on my website, but I will also give it to you right now. I'm in the US, which I believe is 001 512 825 3205. And I want you all to have a wonderful day. And thank you for visiting with us.
Yes, and thank you so much for visiting me here, Ryka.
Well, this has been fun.
Having this interesting conversation. And dear listener, if you like this, you can come back. This podcast is broadcasted every week on Saturdays. And subscribe, then you get notice of it. Bye-bye, until next time.
Thank you for listening to Conversations with Klana. Remember to follow us on social media and get connected. Visit our website, conversationswithklana.com, for show notes and additional episodes. And if you like this broadcast, please share it with your friends to help us empower more women to live an authentic and happy life and make this world a better place for everyone.